Every 2 years, American golf looks for a savior, and every 2 years, they usually find a scapegoat. By Sunday, at the 2023 Ryder Cup in Rome, the United States had lost again on European soil. But the loudest conversation afterward wasn't just about Europe being better. It was about Zach Johnson, about the choices, about who he benched, who he sent out, and what he said when it was slipping away. It didn't matter how many majors he had won or how many fairways he had hit in his career. The math had changed. The Ryder Cup is the only place in sports where a legendary career can be reevaluated in a single weekend. In Rome, we didn't just see a team lose, we saw a reputation dismantled in real time. But the real question is, did Zach Johnson truly fail as a leader? Or was he crushed by expectations no American captain can realistically live up to? Before he became the villain, Zach was the poster child. His whole reputation was built on control. No chaos, no drama. A Midwest pro who didn't need hype to win. He won the 2007 Masters at 1 over par, a number that looks weird until you remember how nasty Augusta played that week. Then, years later, he won the Open Championship at St. Andrews in 2015, in a playoff. 2 majors. A long, steady career, and a history inside Ryder Cup rooms as a player. So when the PGA of America made him captain for 2023, it wasn't a wild pick. It fit the idea of what Team USA needed to be. Organized, steady, and prepared. That's exactly why what happened next hit so hard. Because the Ryder Cup story didn't start on Friday morning. It started months earlier, with what Johnson said he wanted this team to be. In the build-up, Johnson talked openly about chemistry, about camaraderie, about building a team room that felt united. On paper, that's normal captain talk. But outside the locker room, it landed differently. To a lot of fans, it sounded like a hint that relationships might matter as much as form. So when he finally announced his 6 captains' picks on the 29th of August 2023, Sam Burns, Ricky Fowler, Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and Justin Thomas, the roster didn't just get discussed, it got put on trial. Most of the debate quickly centered on one name. Justin Thomas hadn't qualified for the FedEx Cup playoffs that year, and his recent form had been questioned all summer. So even before Rome, the conversation around this team started to split into 2 versions. In one version, Johnson was trusting a proven match play guy. In the other, he was betting on loyalty and vibes. And once that argument takes hold, every later decision starts getting read through the same lens. Then the matches began, and Johnson made an early call that people noticed right away. He kept Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth out of the Friday morning foursome session. For a captain who preached comfort and chemistry, benching his most iconic duo in the opening session was a move that made the entire golf world squint. Was he overthinking the analytics, or was he hiding a problem we couldn't see yet? It didn't matter, because the start was a disaster. Europe swept the Friday morning foursomes 4-0. By the end of the day, Europe led 6.5 to 1.5, matching the largest day 1 lead in Ryder Cup history. From that point on, everything got picked apart. Pairings, energy, preparation, even who looked engaged on the bench. That's the harsh reality of the Ryder Cup. When you are winning, a captain is a genius. When you are losing 4-0, every decision looks like a mistake. Then Johnson added fuel to the fire. He tried to explain Friday's disaster by saying that some guys in the US camp were dealing with illness, congestion, and low energy without naming names. That might have been a real factor. But when you're already getting beat like that, anything that sounds like an explanation gets heard as an excuse. So now the criticism had 2 layers. 1. The team looked flat. 2. The captain was already pointing to reasons. And if you're trying to protect morale, that's the tightrope. Say nothing and people assume dysfunction. Say something and people hear deflection. Meanwhile, the questionable decisions kept stacking up. Johnson's controversial pick was Justin Thomas. So, when Thomas finally went out Friday afternoon with Spieth, it felt like a moment designed for a payoff. They did get a half point on Friday afternoon, but even that felt like a missed chance. They were 2 up with 5 holes to play, and they still ended up having the match. And that's when the pressure really shifted. When you're already behind, you don't just need points. You need a moment that changes the mood. Instead, the weekend kept going the same way. Saturday morning, Thomas and Spieth played McIlroy and Fleetwood and lost 2-1. Later that day, they lost again, 3-2, to Rose and McIntyre. So now Johnson had his most debated pick, paired with Spieth, in the biggest spots, and it still wasn't turning the week around. Which brings us to the decision fans still bring up Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler played Friday and then didn't play at all on Saturday. That alone would have gotten talked about. But what really set people off was the mixed message. On the broadcast, Steve Sands said Johnson told him Fowler was sitting because it was a captain's decision, not because he was sick. Other reports hinted at illness. So online, it turned into a simple story. A popular player, barely used, a team already getting crushed, and a captain whose communication now felt muddy at the worst possible time. Even if there was a perfect medical reason, the optics were brutal. It reinforced the idea that the plan was being prioritized over the reality of the scoreboard. By the end, the loss wasn't the only story. There were also reports and rumors that Team USA's locker room was tense, a direct contradiction to everything Johnson had promised. Johnson tried to shut down the idea that the team room was fractured. After the loss, Johnson said it had absolutely nothing to do with team camaraderie. He called it probably the closest team he'd ever been a part of. And then he owned the other part. He said he'd made some poor decisions and that he'd reflect on them. That's what made the backlash worse. Because once you say the locker room wasn't the problem, people focus on the one thing that's left. Not chemistry, not the team effort, but the captain's choices. And that's how the captain becomes the most blamed man in American golf. Not because he's the only reason they lost, but because the Ryder Cup turns leadership into a verdict. So, where does that leave a man like Zach Johnson? Does 1 week in Rome permanently stain a Hall of Fame career? The truth is that Zach Johnson's still a Masters champion, still an Open champion, still the kind of pro golf has trusted for decades. Nothing that happened in Italy changes the trophies on his mantle. Sadly, though, the Ryder Cup doesn't care about your resume. It only cares about your legacy as a leader. Before 2023, Zach Johnson was a name you respected without hesitation. After 2023, he became a case study in leadership. Did he fail the team? Or did the impossible pressure of the Ryder Cup simply expose the fact that sometimes there is no right decision when the other side is playing better? We like to blame the captain because it's easier than admitting that golf is a game of inches and luck that no one can truly control. In Rome, 12 players hit the shots, but only one man had to bear the brunt. And that is the cruelest trick of the Ryder Cup. It turns a lifetime of excellence into a single, unresolved question.